So the Indic enterprise believes that every person who starts a business, every entrepreneur, must be on the path of building that business, sustaining that business, and growing that business to the extent of his or her potential. That is the premise on which we have built this entire series called the Indic Enterprise. I want to quickly get into money, money, money. How many of you have listened to the ABBA song, Money, Money, Money? Very few. All I can see grey hairs. None of the younger people have listened to ABBA. So it goes, words, the lyrics are, money, money, money. It must be funny. It's a rich man's world. And it goes on to say, all the things that I could do if I had a little money. So valid for us in business, so valid in the enterprise. In Tamil also there's a song, Kaase Daan Kadavulada. Evlo per kettirukeenga? Aduvume grey hairs only would have heard that song. Okay. And in Hindi too I've heard this called Sabse Bada Rupaya. Again a very old song. Okay. Essentially talking of the same thing. But today we're going to take a very serious look at managing our cash and what do we do as entrepreneurs at different stages of our business in terms of cash. So the contents is at the toss. So when we start during power play, in the middle overs, focusing on the run rate, coasting along, all to take from what is happening around us in terms of the IPL and saying it's so relevant for us in business and what we do. Okay, we'll straight away get into at the toss. This is the first question. With how much money should I start? Is this a question which runs in our mind? With how much money should I start? So by, you're saying all expenses that I may need to incur with zero revenue for 1 year. Am I right? When you say 1 year. So when we're saying starting, till we have a product or service. Okay. So let's take this example. So with how much money should I start? We have very rightly come up with that question, what is my business? And what are the needs as far as this business is concerned? And therefore that will only determine how much money I need to start with. Depending on the type of product or service. We have been in businesses, we have started quite a few in our journey so far. There were some where, though we were in the computer industry, it was a pure trading business. We were buying and we were selling. When we were buying and we were selling, we probably were able to get a customer even in the first month of our business. Some revenues were starting to happen even in the first month of our business. We probably did not need 12 months of cash for all expenses for us to start business. So, very important aspect is that question, when will revenues really kick in? I would say that is how we need to address. If we are starting and saying I'm going to develop a product and so the product development is going to take 6 or 9 months. So I would say that's the first thing we need to ask. How quickly can revenue start to kick in the business that I'm starting? Huh?
So when JK was talking about 99% not getting money, one of the reasons, the most important reason companies fail is they run out of cash. So therefore the need to answer this of how much cash do I need to make sure I don't run out of cash too soon. That is why we keep talking about this. 12 months is an estimate based on what you want. How do you arrive at what? Here. When can I get my first rupee of revenue? Is it in, like JK said, when you're trading, it could be in the first month. If you're building a product, it could be at the end of 3 years. How soon can I get the first rupee and then sustainable revenue? that is a milestone that you keep to know how much money in your wallet. So that is the starting indication. And then let us see what else to ask.
This is theoretical in terms of what we're discussing. We have started businesses where we said, hey, this is all the money we have. We want to start. We already were entrepreneurial in nature. We were itching to get out of the company where we were working and we want to start. We had only salary income. Okay, at that time we have saved up some money. I'm just going to throw you a figure. Say, let's say we had 1 or 2 lakhs. We want to start with what we have. How many of you started saying, I can start only with what I have, and I never looked at all of this and said this adding up to so much, because it adds up to so much that I can't even start a business anymore. So to me, this is theoretical. This is nice. If I had 12 months of runway, 15 lakhs a month, 1.8 crores, my father-in-law, somebody gave it to me. Okay, I'm very fortunate. But it doesn't happen that way. How many of you started with what you have? See?
So nobody's challenging this.
Absolutely. So this is theory. So we want to come back to say, yes, though we know all this, all of us have started business with what we have, with that optimistic nature in us saying, quickly we can get revenues. And we'll take care as it goes along. So we'll leave it at that, and so therefore we want to just say, to a large extent we start a business with insufficient amount of money. Okay? We will, that is all we will do as far as this question is concerned. How much of my own? All my savings? Safe fruit. Ram keeps saying at least 12 months of EMI you should keep aside. Ram, I think that's your favorite thing.
Don't disturb your family. They will leave you in peace to do your business. So, some reality check when you talk about all my savings.
Should I borrow money? Should we borrow from friends and relatives? No. What is wrong with, first is therefore, should we borrow money? What is the reality? The reality is, with uncertainties of business, whatever our business plan is, whatever the spreadsheet indicates, the reality is what is the one which we are facing all the time and which we are handling all the time. As prudent entrepreneurs, it's good to be able to borrow money. Let me first start there. Whether we borrow or not is next. It is good to be able to borrow money. When I say good to be able to borrow money, it means a lender has all the confidence that if I lend money to this entrepreneur, the money will get returned with interest, with whatever, but the money will get returned. The moment we have that ability to make sure that another person has confidence in us and in our business, it's a good thing to do. So I would say, whether we borrow money or not, the readiness to borrow money, and therefore our ability to have been identified people who would be happy to lend money to us, is itself a validation in some form about what we're doing. It is not just saying, some friends are saying, okay, whatever you're doing, hey, you need a beta, I'll give you. It's not, I'm not talking about that. That is then more an emotional connect with which somebody is giving us money. I'm not talking about that. I'm looking at somebody who has looked at what we're doing, looked at us and said, yes, if you need money, I'm happy to give you something. So readiness to borrow money, both from...
Can you sell your idea to a friend or a relative as if you're selling to a venture capitalist, to a bank? Do you have the confidence to go and look at your wingmate, batchmate, brother, sister and say, I need 10 lakhs? Or first is sell the idea, then ask the money. If you can sell the idea, the only way you will get people to work for you is when you sell your idea, your passion. The same thing goes with money. Your ability to tell your story, share your passion, and say that, look, I have put all my savings. I want somebody else to come along with me. I'm sharing this idea with 3, 4, 5 people only. I think it's a great winner. If you believe in it, give me money. Don't believe in it, don't. Move on. But the idea is sell. Don't borrow. Sell. Which is very different. Sell means you will talk commercial terms, you will talk everything. After, you're only asking for an order, which is give me money at the end. But you've sold your idea, sold the passion, and you've created one more believer. Only then should you go with that. Otherwise, I agree with all of you who said no.
I'm going to add to something that Ram just now said, that after you finish that, the other person should ask you, hey, can I put in some money into your enterprise? Can I raise money from angels, VCs? There's a question which we already answered. Definitely go after it, but the business must go on whether or not this happens. That's all you're saying. Definitely go after it. Go after it at the earliest opportunity, because as your product or idea crystallizes and you have an opportunity, please go after it. But your business and its growth does not depend on whether this happens or not.
Yeah. How many of you have raised money through contests? So there are prize monies that are available globally for startups, where you can participate and win ₹1 crore, $100,000, $200,000. It is not difficult. And people like you who have the ideas don't look for such opportunities. We look at traditional areas. So look at that. How many of you are in an incubator? See, there are incubators that are attached to academic institutions and there are standalone. The reason I'm pointing out is an incubator gives you 3 things. One, it gives you an environment in which, physical environment, where you can get resources to start building. Second, it gives you other people like yourselves. When you think, hey, I am not able to attract talent, what are you doing? You can just walk across and ask somebody else. You can share resources. And the third is, you get startup money. Multiple ways. And we forget that we can go to an incubator. Incubators are trying to see, it's competitive. Why should a great idea go to this incubator or that incubator? People are starting to say 25 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 1 crore. All I'm saying is, don't think of innovation only in your product. Innovation has to be your DNA in attracting talent, in attracting money, in everything. What are the opportunities and are we exploring all of this? Moment we say bank, we say collateral. Not true necessarily. 95% may be true. But there is a 5% which is not. How many of you have registered with Startup India? It gives you so many benefits. As an angel, if I invest in you, I don't get taxed. You don't get taxed. I don't get scrutinized. You don't get taxed. If you are part of Startup India. There's a list of banks who can give you collateral-free money. So all I'm saying is, and drawing your attention to is, innovation has to be in every aspect of your business. Talent, product, money.
Okay, so we'll finish this part of at the toss with one final thing. More important, because we are starting with our own money, with whatever money we have, whether it meets that 3-month, 6-month, 12-month runway or not. A more important question, what do we use this money for? And an equally important question, therefore, what is it that we do not use this money for or should not use this money for? Any expense that we are therefore incurring towards getting that product or service right, or towards acquiring a customer, is a productive expense. Anything else, an office, air conditioning, anything you look at, really not necessary. There were other things we have started. When we started SIFI, we started it from a basement. Many have started from a garage. So there are lots of expenses which are not necessarily productive, but sometimes we end up incurring those thinking that we need to have those. So please look at productive, and productive is only clear, simple definition. Anything that makes sure that the product or service comes out right, or anything that goes towards acquiring a customer. These two are productive. Okay, so at the toss, now during power play, lots of people are crowding around us. Things have started to happen. We are answerable to far more people now. We have employees, we have customers, we have vendors, we have things are happening. So during power play, the product service has been launched, business has started, people have been hired, other expenses have to be met. Now that's the scenario. So now things are becoming serious. Business has really started. Okay. So this is what I call the power play area, when it's still not mature, but struggle to get business. People are there, expenses to be met, and we are here. So during power play, again the same question. How much money do I need now? Anybody wants to take a guess? How much money now?
6 to 8 months of
Pardon?
6 to 8 months of operational.
No, these are all, so theory. Where will you get it? Nobody will give you.
These,
Nobody will give you. How many of, so I want to move from normal things that we know. Yes, of course, if we had 9 months of expenses in the bank, great comfort. But how many of us have that? How many businesses really have that? So how much money do I need? Because now customers have started to happen. I will agree with you. All I want to say is, at the toss, we must be clear that at power play, it better come down to 6 months or 3 months or 1 month or 1 day. That is all the point we want to make. I'm not specifically going to come up and say it is X months or that of runway, but very clearly during power play, where we defined it saying revenues are starting to happen, customers are there, we must now depend more on the revenues and operations for what needs to happen in our company, then start to look at this in some form. But we need money. We need money, and we're going to talk of how and what we'll raise. But I want to say that longer horizon that we planned for ourselves when business had not started, that needs to come down in some form to show that the business is going on. Ram?
So, predictability of revenue, by now you should have. Predictability of revenue, better? Better? How do we know that we will have predictability of revenue? Most of us, so I was reading somewhere, what is a good product for our own analysis? What's a good product? Are you selling a vitamin or a painkiller? That was the question. What will get bought? Whereas we will be selling vitamins. What is that differentiator? What kills the pain? What solves problems? If we know and we've got customers saying thank you, then we know we have an opportunity of sustainable revenue. If not, we are selling vitamins, which means nice to have, not necessary to have. Moment it is not, I must have it, then we don't have the opportunity of sustainable revenue. So that is the test we have to keep asking ourselves. Nice to have or must have? So then we will start predicting revenue. Sustainable.
How do I raise this money? Ram has already covered it. Because the moment we are in power play, it means it's working capital that we require. Things are starting to happen. We need to fund that cycle between whatever we are selling, receivables or inventory, and its collection, and based on that cycle fund ourselves for the working capital. Like Ram said, banks are ready to give, NBFCs are ready to give. If we haven't acquired and if we haven't tied this up, it's only that we haven't approached and we haven't explored. But it is certainly available, And like Ram said, lots of working capital available without collateral on the strength of your business. Because we are now in the premise where we are saying, therefore your business has started. Your bank has seen maybe a year's turnover, something that you're doing, what sort of customers you have, from where the checks are coming. Lots of now experience with you. Banks are open to, and as much as we are looking for money, banks are looking for good entrepreneurs too. So if at all we have not tied up, it is because of our hesitation or something which is holding us back, but it's not because banks don't want to give. They are very ready and there are many schemes with which we can start to get working capital. So ready, again, just readiness, let's not get into detail. How do you raise money? You have options, and it's good at this stage to tie those up and go and make sure that some funds is available for the uncertainties of our business. Now, stuck in the middle overs. So we have been at the toss, we have started, we have seen the power play, which means the business is starting to get some revenue, some customers. Now we are stuck in the middle overs. Now it's in the middle overs that a lot of our cash situations and the cash problems starts to strike the business. So we want to take 4. We want to run through the first 3, but the 4th is the most important, and we want to spend a lot more time on the 4th. Money stuck in inventory. So sometimes we end up buying and selling, and sometimes manufacturers would somehow convince us to buy a lot more of their stock for some reason, either of extra margins, incentives, or an opportunity which is coming. Sometimes we end up having inventory which is not saleable, and therefore money is stuck in inventory. Okay, but this is one of the situations, not applicable to all, so we won't spend much time. But sometimes money is stuck in inventory. For a lot more of us, money may be stuck in receivables, okay? And it's a problem. I know many companies where sometimes we are dealing with a large customer, big order, we are very excited about that big order, then we want to fulfill it, we give it, and for some reason, though the money is supposed to come on delivery, doesn't come for a long time, creates a problem. So money stuck in receivables is the next jam which some of us may get into. Money stuck in fixed assets. Many of us, as we are starting using our money to do the interiors of our office, having fancy stuff, really is non-productive. And therefore, it is something that we can avoid in those early stages of our business.
So we say that if I don't have a nice office, I can't attract talent. Nobody's going to come if I have a house. What we do sometimes, we need fixed assets in our business. We need computers. We need stuff to run our business. Can we lease it?
Yeah.
And pay monthly instead of buying it? There are enough leasing companies along with equipment sales. Are there other ways to fund the capital that you need for your business, the fixed assets that you need?
OpEx.
Make it OpEx, make it variable. Many a time, the principle is it fixed or variable? If you can make your expenses variable, you are halfway home. See, there is the advantage of going to a ready-to-use space is there is no other cost except variable. It is a little higher, but from tomorrow you can start, or today you can start. So the speed to market to get going is a great help. But if you see over time, as you add more people, 5, 10, 15, then you have to check and see whether it's cost effective or not. But for readiness to go to market, it's a great place. And it is a great place to share ideas, pick up people, lose people, all that can happen. But it's a great energy. But it's the key thing is I can start today. So the fixed versus variable is the key thing when you look at this. How much of fixed assets also can we look at it, bringing it variable? Again, depends on cash flow. We haven't touched cash flow yet. All depends on cash flow. If you have lump sum money that you've got and you're paying for it, then you can forget about any other monthly expense. Depreciation is on paper. Cash, it's not a cash. If If you can pay the monthly lease charges for all of it, then lease it. If it is core to your business, maybe you have to buy it. So it's core.
Depends on the business, like Ram said, in manufacturing industry, there's a lot more of fixed expenses that need to be put up upfront, so you have machinery and all that, you can't do anything. And today in the software business and the IT business, manpower is really fixed. Though sometimes we think, it's not that easy that you have a project this time and so 4 people, you let them go and next month you can hire 8 people. So to a large extent, you will find even in the software business and in the IT business, expenses tend to be fixed. Very little is variable. But in fixed assets in today, nowadays, most people don't even buy offices. They would like to rent offices. They don't want to buy equipment, they would like to lease equipment. So what Ram is saying in terms of therefore moving as much of whatever we normally took on as fixed into variable is a good thing in our approach. Okay, now what do you all think is the most important where we get stuck? We have covered money stuck in inventory, we have covered money stuck in receivables, we've covered money stuck in fixed assets. Okay, we want to show you what we think is the most important thing where money is stuck. Money is stuck due to lack of revenues. We have already started to incur expenses. Rent is ticking, manpower expenses are ticking, all other utilities, electricity, blah blah blah, all utility payments month on month are ticking. Some travel, some this is ticking. None of that is variable, they're all fixed. Whatever your business now, rent, manpower, utilities and some miscellaneous expenses have to be paid month on month. And we have reached this level, we are now in the middle overs, which means there is some customers coming, some revenue coming, but why are we getting stuck? Because revenues are uncertain. Whatever is that stage of the business, though I might have done well this month, I'm not sure whether we can repeat that next month. I got a good order this month, I'm not sure whether I'll get one more such order next month. This is the reality. So the money is stuck in business. So we want to address this as the most important, that money is stuck due to lack of revenues. So what do you do? Money is stuck in inventory, get rid of it as quickly as possible. Money is stuck in receivables, somehow go, cry, plead, do something and collect that money. Okay. Money is stuck in fixed assets, very little you can do till in some way you are able to meet those. Here, what do you do? What do you do is more important than having identified that this is our biggest problem. Our biggest problem is, it is lack of revenues which caused that I had to meet salaries, I have total expenses of, let's say, I'm just giving a figure, 5 lakhs a month. If I do a business of 10 lakhs, my margins will make sure I get 5-6 lakhs and I'm okay. If I do 8 lakhs, I'm already having a 1 lakh deficit, which somehow I manage. I've used up all my credit cards. All my credit cards are right up to there. Agree?
Up to the brim.
Up to the brim. I paid electricity charges using my credit card. I paid credit card 2 using credit card 1. I've done all that. All up to the brim. I'm 1 lakh negative this month. What is causing it? What do you do?
Sales. More sales.
100%, yeah. So we want to come back to this to say there are 2 aspects which are the most important for us to focus on month on month on month. Yes, we should be careful that we don't create a receivable situation. We should be careful. Ram keeps saying, hey, it's all your hesitation to negotiate terms of payment. So there are things which all of us know, so we don't want to spend some time on that. There are ways to make sure that a receivable situation doesn't overtake us. There are ways to take care of inventory. But there is no magic way for this. There are only 2 aspects that need to get looked at. Take a hard look at your product or service. do I really have a product or service that a customer wants to buy? This product or service worked for me last year. Maybe it's not going to work for me this year. Maybe certainly it won't work for me next year. Whatever it is, constantly evaluate the current product or service and look at that to say if revenues are not happening, business is growing in the industry, but revenues are not happening for me. IT industry is growing, but revenues are not happening for me. What could be the problem? Only two. My product or service is not meeting a customer requirement. Second, I do not have sufficient marketing and sales ammunition and firepower. That is, my product or service is good. I've got 1, but I don't know how to make this 1 into 10. So we have two problems. Problem 1 is if the product or service itself is questionable. It worked yesterday, it was okay for an yesterday market, not okay for today's market, certainly not okay for tomorrow's market, then I have a problem. Second is, my product or service is good. I'm able to acquire 1 customer, but I don't know how to acquire 10 customers.
Google, even today, spends 70% of their product development costs on existing products. 70%. 20% on emerging products. And 10% on what they call moonshots. Ideas that may work. They can afford that. But we will look how much money and focus is there on making sure that the differentiation with which we started continues to be there. That is the starting point. Second, many of us say we are technology guys. We sit and develop the product. I need to find a salesperson to go out and sell my product. Will that salesperson come out of the blue and have the same passion that you have? Do you accompany that salesperson? Maybe you don't have the skill to open an account. But if somebody were to help you do that, do you go and sell? Many founders are shy, if they are technology people, of meeting the customer. You have to sell. You have to go. You have to hire. Same passion. Nobody will join you unless you sell. Same thing here. So when you are stuck here, you have to be out there personally, along with maybe the salesperson. But you have to be out there. Most of us duck saying, I have to go find the cash. Let me go to the bank. Let me go here. Let me meet somebody. Not, of course you have to do that. But revenue. Single focus revenue. Many of us at that time say cut cost. So we'll come to that. What should we do? That's a dilemma when we talk about that.
So this is the most important. So let's focus on this to say, if at all we all have issues in our cash, it's because of lack of revenues.
Second biggest reason for startups to fail is because the entrepreneur is so passionate, but the customer is not. So unless somebody is willing to pay for it, it's a hobby and not a business. So then go put your money, have fun. It's a hobby. Don't play golf like. But it is not something people are going to do.
You know, so we said how to avoid products where I made it myself versus, like Ram said, would customers be delighted. But you're right.
I didn't.
No, those are the very first things we covered, getting your product right and getting an understanding who a customer is. So because of that, because of our issues, we may have unpaid vendors, this catches up, unpaid statutory dues. I know many entrepreneurs who say statutory dues is anyway, it's not something I need to pay, and because of my situation I delay and I don't pay. Huge jam that we can get into. So we just want to say watch out for the fact that the moment cash becomes a problem, these two start to happen. Okay? Avoid these. How do I get out of these cash flow problems? We already covered all those aspects. So let's get into one more very important thing we want to cover. which is we call the horizon of certainty. So by horizon of certainty, how much of our revenues can we see as certain? Is it at least this month? How much I'm going to do this month? I have no clue what can happen next month. Many are like that. It is so. It comes back to that same thing. The problem is revenues. The problem is going after and acquiring customers and business. So in horizon of certainty, pipeline flow, expected closures, how do you track these? Revenue projections, how certain? Horizon of certainty, 1 month, 1 quarter, or are we operating in the horizon of uncertainty? Keep this in mind. Each one of you evaluate your own businesses. See how can I make sure that I have a horizon of certainty at least this month. And if I need to have a horizon of certainty next month, how good is my pipeline? What is my process between meeting a customer and closing a deal? And therefore, is the pipeline something that I can look at to say, hey, with this pipeline, my certainty for next month also exists. Or with this pipeline, my certainty for next quarter exists. Ram, you had something?
No, I'm saying if you are a technology entrepreneur, most of the time the pipeline and revenue projections are left to the sales. It is not delegated, it is abdicated. The difference being that you're not taking responsibility and monitoring here. This is your founder responsibility, both this, as much as product development. If you don't have a full control and track on your salesperson on revenue and tracking that pipeline and making sure that if I have a pipeline where I have not even put in my bid, I know then it's going to take 3 months before it becomes an order. 40%, 20%. Knowing that horizon of certainty, we don't spend that time. And that is really what we are saying. Founder's responsibility to manage sales and pipeline, don't abdicate it. Moment you do that, then you are completely dependent on somebody else and your judgment is very weak.
Okay?
So I have a question regarding how does that work for something like the food business where it's more on a day-to-day thing, right?
Actually, you'll find restaurants who are doing well. Take Sarvana Bhavan. He's absolutely certain that every day, take Panamudir Cholan. All of us have been to this Panamudir in some way or other. They have a great understanding to say, if it is a weekend, he will get this many customers, average bill value so much, and he is very clear that Saturday, Sunday, my revenues can be this much. If it is start of the month, he is very clear, first week of the month, his revenues in Big Bazaar, for example, he knows first week of the month, these things can happen. Maybe 20th and 22nd and 24th, maybe it will come down. So they all have a very good idea of certainty on a day by day or a week by week thing in terms of an estimation. True for hotels, true for
pre-marketing to bring this horizon of certainty. That is part of business development. That is the fundamental thing about business. So if you don't do that, then on day one, after the whole fixed cost comes up, then we are going to look that is building a mousetrap and waiting for a mouse. So put the cheese all the way.
Okay, so now things are getting more serious, focused on the run rate. We want to come back with one thought which we want to leave behind, that for all our businesses, as quickly as possible, only when the business starts to pay for itself are we reaching somewhere. So the whole objective of all of us being in business is how early and then how regularly does the business start to pay for itself. So the questions we want to raise, focusing on the run rate, at what volumes do I need to operate? Okay. Now we will take up two scenarios and then we will start to look at what could be the answers because they could surface. at what volumes do I need to operate? I want to say for somebody, hey, should I do 5 lakhs per month? Should I do 10 lakhs per month? Should I be at 1 crore? What is it? At what volumes do I need to operate for whatever is the product or service that I have? We take 2 scenarios and we look at that to understand what it is. So scenario 1, revenue is 10 lakhs, expenses 9.5 lakhs, profit is 50,000 rupees. Scenario 2, revenue is 2 lakhs, expenses 1.5 lakhs, profit 50,000 rupees. Which many of you said scenario 2, which means for my own business, would I rather be comfortable with this rather than that? Would I go after this therefore and not go after that?
Profit margin should be profit.
Understood. Therefore, so what we want to share with you, then okay, we'll take one more scenario and then we'll combine these two and come up with something. Okay. Okay, leave it. Pause it here. Let's take one more scenario. Revenue 2.5 crores, expenses 2.7 crores, loss of 20 lakhs. Revenues 40 lakhs, expenses 38 lakhs, profit of 2 lakhs. Which of these do you think is a better scenario? You want to take both these situations, Ram? What is the objective of our business? Why are we in business? Growth.
Customer
Absolutely. Why are we in business?
Growth.
To grow. We put down 4 or 5 objectives of the Indic enterprise. Start, sustain, nurture, grow, enjoy. Okay? What is our objective when we start business? Growth is an objective. So we want to grow, absolutely. Because we want to grow, both scenario 1 here and in the other example, it indicates that I have more customers. It indicates that I am doing far more in an activity, which probably means I have more people, I have things, I'm getting more business. Ram has another very interesting way of putting it, which he calls the bonsai operation. Ram, you must maybe share that now.
So many of us have seen bonsais. Very nice, cute plants. Bonsai? No? So it's lovely to have at home in a garden. Japanese have a lot of it. What do they do to create a bonsai? They chop the roots so that the plant can never grow beyond a certain size. It looks very pretty, but it's absolutely useless. That's about it. It's a nice object to look at and say, wow, nothing else. So we may be creating bonsais. If you start looking at 2 lakhs and 3 lakhs. C.K. Prahlad, you know, bottom of the pyramid and all of that. He said many of us, when we get pushed and challenged, sometimes think status quo is good enough. I'm doing 2-3 crores. That's fine. He says status quo is walking dead. Competition will come and knock you off. The moment you have a mindset of status quo, no growth, that's it. Even to keep my weight where it is, I have to still walk. Doesn't stay status quo without effort. So he said, the moment you say status quo, get into a comfort zone that this is okay, good enough for me, and then we are challenged and we are the walking dead. So we may be creating bonsais that are too small for any function, or we may be mentally getting ourselves into a status quo mode, which is comfort zone, which means God. So that is the danger we have to be watching. This is not long term.
Yeah.
This is not long term. But if you took the 2 lakhs and the 1.5 lakh, 2 lakh and the 1.5 lakh, what will we say if instead of that it was 2 lakh and 10,000 rupees and you have a loss like this? Your ability to cut costs there is going to be difficult compared to your ability to cut costs here. So with some scale, you can productively cut or optimize costs. In a small little window, you'll find it tough to optimize costs. So that is paying 2.5 crores so far. So you cross that bridge.
Yeah.
For you to grow, is that value being perceived by customer? So there is one we haven't yet touched upon, is cash flows, pricing, and margins. All three are needed for a sustainable business. So you already crossed the point where customers are willing to pay for it. So you got it. It's hopefully a big.
So we want to leave you with the thought that moving to higher orbits is a very good thing for us in the business. So the thought I want to leave you is, it's not that 50,000 rupees on 10 lakhs versus 50,000 rupees on 2 lakhs. It's not that on a 20 lakh loss versus a 2 lakh profit, but a 2.5 crore revenue has a greater opportunity to now move into that next orbit. The 2.7 crore expense can very easily be managed. For example, if you analyze it, you may find 20-30 lakhs has been spent on new people who are coming in because they're going to bring in business next year. The readiness of this business to grow would be far greater than the readiness of a business at lower orbits. Let us keep this in mind, that for us, like the electron which keeps moving to higher orbits when it gains more energy, our thing is to move to higher and higher orbits and face challenges at higher and higher orbits, find solutions at higher and higher orbits, become comfortable at higher and higher orbits, and then that's the way to grow. So we'll keep in mind, our input here is, we think scenario 1 is a better scenario for us as an entrepreneur, because it shows that we are then on the path towards moving to higher orbits. But what margins do I need to operate? Okay, we'll combine this with another one, which will finish this. So do I know my costs? What's the most important? First is, therefore, we as an entrepreneur must know everything. Fixed variable we've already covered, and we have a concept called unit cost. We won't spend time now because we have one more concept we want to cover, but they are linked. So before margins, costs, and therefore this one, what is the right price for my product or service somebody raised? They are linked. Ram?
So, as an investor, sometimes when we go around meeting entrepreneurs and ask them, we want to see your numbers, usually they say, talk to my auditor. Talk to my auditor. One may be it's a cushion, but most of the times we don't have those numbers handy enough. I'm an engineer. I don't know accounting to that extent. I don't know finance. That's something, no choice. If you're getting into business, you better know credit and debit and cash flows. Cash in hand and cash flow is more important than your business plan. Far more important. Enough mantras and business documents which says cash is king. Why is it said cash is king? Going back to that certainty, horizon of certainty, you must draw up a cash flow. Where is my money coming from? Where is it going? That's all cash flow is. Where is it coming from? Who do I need to pay? It's as simple as that, but we need it. Then you know, hey, I'm having a shortage. Maybe some of this inventory I should sell. Sell it, get that cash. Many things you will do. Maybe I need to go to the bank and get a little more working capital. When you have some money in your hand, maybe I need to discount my bill today. But if you don't look at cash flow, then your starting point itself, you're in trouble. So cash flow is more important making than a business plan. Business plan sets a direction, but monthly, daily, weekly, depending upon how your cash flows come in, you may need to do that. So that's the starting point. And then we talk about pricing.
So I'll add to what Ram said. Let's say I bought a product at 1 lakh. I sold it at 1,20,000. Have I made a profit? It depends on whether I collected that money or not. So what he's saying on cash flow is so important that profit remains on paper till I collect the money. When I go to collect the money, if that person gives me, okay, 50,000 rupees now, rest I'll pay you next month. And then the next month doesn't come. And you are stuck. So the profit of 20,000 on paper suddenly became a loss of 50,000 rupees. So cash flow, what he said, such an important component for us in business. Okay. To answer this, what price and what is the right price, what margins? In an end customer situation, to a large extent, we go by maybe list price. So somebody is in a restaurant business, somebody is something, it's printed in terms of what the price is. Many of us who are in enterprise business, every order is a negotiated order. How many are getting orders at list price? Quoted price? Negotiated price? Yeah. So we are wanting to say, we know that therefore in an enterprise sale, it's a negotiated price. Let us not hesitate to derive the maximum value for our own products or services, not thinking that I'm a small guy, I'm a startup, I'm a this, I'm a that. So it's a lovely example which we used to share in another thing. There was this little shoe shine boy sitting in front of Waldorf Hotel. Customer walks out of the hotel, very busy, wanting to go for his meeting, sees this shoe shine boy, so puts his foot out, puts it there, still wanting to read his newspaper, but casually says, hey, how much? So the little boy says $1. And he finds this customer still reading the newspaper, not even batting an eyelid. So the little boy says, per shoe. Good for us to try and say, derive the value, because margins are important for us. It's not that therefore we do something stupid and go out of the way. But do not hesitate, do not keep anything thinking that I am a small guy, I am this, and therefore I need to work on smaller margins or at lower prices.
Do we check unit economics? What idea of unit economics? All of us do. Unit economics, we make a profit on what we sell. We have a contribution. Then we may decide that I'm going to spend that contribution discretionary. I'll hire 2 more people, I may advertise a little more, but it comes out of a margin but there is unit economics. When I have that money, I can do social marketing, I can put an ad in the Hindu, whatever I want to do. Discretionary spends come after that. But unit economics is what investors check for. Are you fundamentally making a margin in your sale? If you are, thereafter everything is variable in your control. So pricing starts with unit economics. Of course, competition, all that you will take.
Let's look at our total cost of business. I just want to take some numbers. Let's say you have a business where you're incurring 2 lakhs per month as cost. Something, maybe rent, few people you have, for yourself there's some amount that you need to set aside. I'm just giving a number. Let's say 2 lakhs per month is what you're spending as a business. Whatever your product or service, is it your own product or you're buying and selling? What in your case, I'm just wondering.
My own product.
Your own product. So which means you are free to decide the price at which you sell to customer. Is yours a competitive one? There are 4 more products at the same price, or yours is nobody knows what your product is in comparison to others?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. So you are at a great advantage. So you can say 1 lakh, you can say 10,000. Am I right? Up to you. Am I right?
Yeah.
So it can be 10,000, it can be 1 lakh. What is the quantum gross margin every month? I might have got 20% in one deal, I might have got 40% in one deal, I might have broken even in another deal. But the quantum gross margin is a very important aspect for us as an entrepreneur.
As a product person, you also have a version 2.0 coming up. So what is the money I need to keep aside? Assuming you have all this freedom of generating more cash. So gross margin is all dependent. First is, can I cover my costs? Then can I create surplus? And and then can I buy myself a nice Rolls Royce?
So, all you want to say therefore, when we are focusing on the run rate, it's a combination of costs, margins, and price towards the break even, and therefore very important to look at it, understand it, and whatever I've suggested as looking at it to say the quantum gross margin every month is important to us, and see how you're going to make sure that it's done. It's not a percentage margin which is as important as the quantum. Coasting along, so now all that, yes, we are very clear, we were focused on the run rate, now we are coasting along, business is going, things are happening. Important questions for ourselves. When do I break even? Do I achieve this through revenue increase or expense reduction? If you take these two.
Or both.
So first, when do I pass? Ram was sharing with me something about some seasoned entrepreneurs in a large company. They got out and they started a business. And I think it's a good lesson for us to keep in mind. They said we will break even from day one. Ram, you wanted?
It's a mindset. I am trying to bring value to my customer. I have a product, I'm differentiating. I will ask the right price if I can. Many a time we are hesitating to get the right value. If we don't have a break-even attitude from today, then our unit economics we are not checking. Everything else is discretionary. I want to do a market share increase. I'm going to do some Facebook advertising. This month, I will spend 5 lakhs more. But that is a drive, focused, based on surplus that you've generated. But the whole attitude is break even now and get as much into variable rather than fixed. Right from the beginning, I've been saying, try and get your expenses into variable rather than fixed. How much is discretionary and how much you are stuck with? That gives you the ability to break even sooner. You may choose then to spend money. I will now hire, I'll go to new geography, I will bring better talent, I will spend more money. Whatever you want to do is in your control. So that attitude of wanting to break even, and these were very seasoned entrepreneurs. And the more we see like this, the happier we are. Market share for the sake of market share, where it gives you disproportionate value, then that's different. There is room for 2 people in e-commerce in the country, let me grow market share, is different. They are exceptions. Many of us want to be at a certain level, having profit, being in control of our business. Snapdeal did not get funding, and for a moment it looked like they were going to die. Doing that model of just grabbing market share. That's not what you and I want. We want to be in business. We're not doing a lottery. Therefore, break even as a DNA, as a philosophy, as a purpose becomes very important.
So from day one, other than any time going in for product development, if that takes like you said 12 months, doesn't matter, but from the 13th month I break even. And my product or service is ready, my mindset is break even from day one. Do I achieve through revenue increase or expense reduction? We want to leave you with the fact that expense reduction works only in very large companies where they had huge profits and now suddenly they've gone into a loss and they're examining what caused it, and then cost reduction can help in bringing back that aspect into the company. But for us who are building our businesses and going towards profitability, towards all of that, it's going to come through revenue increase. Very little can be achieved through expense reduction in terms of where we are. So we must be clear, it is moving into those higher orbits. Moving into those higher orbits, which is what gets us more customers, more this, and in the next orbit, something like that.
This is bonsai, if you do it too soon. However, cost optimization is something we should do
Yes.
naturally,
Yes.
all the time.
Yes, yes.
That's a reflection, that is cost optimization, that we will always think. But for us to actually build a business, we have to look at revenue increase. Is there a new customer? Is there somebody else I can get reference? Whatever. But that is the only way.
So when can I become cash flow positive? The moment we achieve, we'll come back. We'll finish. Break even will move you into this cash flow positive thing, and therefore cash flow positive. When do I stop borrowing? What do you think? When do I stop borrowing? It's a very important question.
When I can't repay enough for paying interest.
Okay. So what we want to say is, whether we used capital, whether we used borrowed money, what are we using it for? What are we using that capital or borrowed money for? Till I am able to stand on my own 2 feet, correct? I am using that in my infancy or something till I am able to stand on my own 2 feet and start to run. The moment I am on my own 2 feet and I am starting to run, it means my business is generating cash. My business is more than break even. Why do I need to borrow money?
So for growth.
We'll come to that. So the growth we'll assume is a new business. If you just take, let's say I'm in one location, KK. I want to now open Delhi, something. So even we can assume that's a new business. I put in some more capital, but then it has to start returning. So the approach I want to say is, our very purpose of being in business is the earliest time in which the business will start to pay for itself. That is important. So I would say, when do I stop borrowing? If I can do break even from day one, I stop borrowing from day one. If I can break even in the first quarter, I stop borrowing from the first quarter because there's something happening. This is the mindset which we want to say is part of it. And therefore, when do I get to be debt free? Sometimes it is good to have a line of credit because the line of credit is a comfort. But it is not the line of credit and the borrowing which is going to help us in doing everything that we need to do. It is how we do the business which is the most important. And therefore, when do I stop borrowing? When do I get debt free as early as possible? And that's what we want to cover.